guys. This is the Passive Prospecting channel, and we're here today in our live weekly training. So I'm pretty excited to be here. Now, of course, Levi's not here. The star of the show is not here today. He is traveling, so I am taking over the stream and kind of answering some of the burning questions that we've had in the group, as well as, with our video editing program and all of that. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop those into the chat. For those of you who are in our live group, of course, feel free to pop into the stream at any time. But today, we're going to let people kind of filter in. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and start answering a couple of the main questions that I've been getting here in the past couple of weeks with both our video editing clients and people who are just in the course. And I do apologize, this is live, and of course the mailman decides to come as soon as I'm live. So my dogs are out there freaking out, so I do apologize. But the first thing that we've been getting lots of questions about, and we kind of covered a little bit on a couple of different trainings that we've done, but seasonal versus semi-seasonal. And the reason that I want to focus on this one more time before I kind of, put this away for the rest of the year is because we're getting to a part of the year where a lot of people are starting to see some traffic that kind of goes like this. And I've had complaints from people saying, oh man, I'm used to seeing a normal amount of traffic on my channel, and I'm starting to notice that a lot of stuff is not doing as well as it was, maybe a month ago. That does not mean that your channel is on a downward trajectory. It simply means that we're in the middle of a holiday season. So just wanted to let you guys know that if you are seeing a little bit lower traffic than normal, that is completely normal for this time of year. And this is what you should be doing during this time. Now, we talk a lot about, trying to use topics that can be relevant next year around the same time of year, but not necessarily like your typical evergreen content that if somebody found it in March, it would necessarily be, relevant to them in March. I would try to find topics, especially in your short form content. I think that this kind of relates a lot more to our short form content. But try to find topics, if you are incorporating a short form strategy into your overall YouTube strategy, that you find something that is unique to your area around this time of year, whether that's for Christmas or if that's for New Year's, or, even as far out as talking about Valentine's Day or something, as we're kind of getting closer to some of those other holidays during the winter season. So that's what I would kind of focus on as we're getting closer to 2023, is start doing some planning on how you can incorporate something like that into each month. Because ultimately that semi-seasonal content is going to really help your channel gain, instant traction, because people are searching for those in high volumes around those times. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. Now, as far as like how far out should you actually be scheduling your stuff or thinking about your content that you want to do? As far as your long form content goes, I think that as long as your strategy is evergreen, you can schedule out as far as you want. Now, with the stuff that's more like semi-seasonal, I probably wouldn't think too much farther than 2 to 3 months, just because trends change on short form content platforms. And you want to kind of be in tune with what those are. And so I wouldn't go farther than 2 to 3 months when you're planning those things out, but be thinking of ideas of maybe topics that you could cover, and then find a way that is kind of in a trendy way to incorporate that into your channel too. And that will kind of help you maximize your traffic there. But like I said, we always talk about trying to batch produce things as far as the long form content goes. So with your long form content, there's really no limits on how far out you can start to plan for that. Another great example of semi-seasonal content, it's not necessarily related to actual seasons, but it is like market reports and things like that. We talked a lot about this last week when Levi was here, but just using things that are relevant right now in your market are actually helping the channels get pushed a little farther. Now, I would not focus an entire video on the exact interest rate today, or some of those, the stats of how many homes have been sold in the last 30 days. I wouldn't focus your entire video around that market report. I would certainly incorporate that and say, how does that support some of the stats that we've had over the past year or the past 3 years? How does that support that this is a good decision for you to move here? And so if you look back and you kind of look at like our market crash video that we did not too long ago, We did another, I can't remember exactly what all the different topics are, but we've done 2 or 3 different ones on our particular market, and why right now is still a really good time to buy, and why in the long term this has been a good decision for investors for a really long time. That's a really good way to kind of look at that. How can you incorporate what's happening now in your market to something that will be relevant for a long period of time? Compare it to past stats, do whatever you need to do to be able to show that it's a good investment to move there. That's a really good way to do kind of what we call semi-seasonal content as well. So I feel like we've talked a lot about that a lot. And so I won't come back to that. I know Levi was like, okay, it's time to move on, but I just wanted to kind of touch on that before we left it alone for the rest of the year, because I know a lot of people are kind of prepping for their year for 2023, and that's something that you can incorporate into your 2023 strategy and kind of start the new year afresh, if you will. Also, what do you do during these colder months? I've gotten this question so many times in the past couple of weeks, so I figured I would go ahead and just talk about it on this call. So a lot of people are concerned, especially our friends that are up in kind of the northern regions where it's really cold right now. It's not that pretty outside. It's lots of mush, it's lots of snow, and it's just not pleasant to be outside. Well, there's a couple of different routes that you can go with this. One suggestion is to just go ahead and knock out a bunch of map videos and pros and cons videos, some of those other office type videos, going and doing some of that semi-seasonal content where you're talking about the market and things like that. That's a really good option. If you batch record a bunch of those, and actually Levi can sit down and do 3 or 4 of those in a day now. He's done it for so long. It's something that he can just, knock out a bunch of those, and then you've got weeks worth of content to work with. That's one option that you can do. Another option is to go out and do it anyway. People are going to want to know what your area looks like all year round, whether or not it looks pretty, whether or not it's like this perfect pristine area, or if it's super cold. Some people are moving to that area, believe it or not, for that reason. Also find a way to highlight it, and so it looks, appealing. You think about, this was a really good example. There was somebody that I was talking to in Chicago not too long ago, and they were talking about how freezing it is all the time from like November till even up until like April or May. It can just be really cold and just kind of nasty weather all the way around. And I thought, well, if you want to go back to our first topic of semi-seasonal content, right? There's also something very magical about a Chicago Christmas, right? Think about all of the amazing decorations that they've got outside. Think about, downtown Chicago and how huge their Christmas celebration is there. Think about all the houses and how they're decked out and how the lights look at night with the snow. There's a lot you can do, even on a really nasty day where there's snow everywhere. There is a way to highlight that to show what magical Christmases look like in Chicago. You could really do this anywhere. You can do this in like a small town even. Maybe you don't have this massive Christmas celebration, but you do have a lot of stuff going on for that small town, and maybe a unique parade or something like that. Those are the types of things you can kind of incorporate into videos. Even during parts of the year that aren't ideal weather, there's still things that you can do to highlight those things. So kind of start getting creative during those Christmas months. And then of course into the, just snowy months of January, February, March for some places. Think of a unique way to highlight some of the good parts. What are the things that you do like about that time of year? There's got to be 1 or 2, right? So those are kind of my 2 suggestions. You can do lots of office videos, and then I would go in and do a few vlog videos and just highlight some of the good parts of that season, because people want to see all 4 seasons of that area regardless. And you can always go back and do another video, and that's what we try to do. We try to go in and do a vlog tour on every single area that we cover, just in different seasons. So you'll see a bunch of different Frisco videos, a bunch of different Plano videos. You'll even see some recurring towns and cities that are even some on the smaller side, but they're in different seasons. So that's what I would recommend there. And then before I keep moving on, I've got a list of stuff that I've had questions. I'm going to pop over to the chat here and answer some questions here as well. Okay, so Susan, hello. And she's asking, can you define short form, long form, etc.? So short form being like shorts. You can do like Instagram reels, TikToks, that's short form. So anything that's really, you can do them up to 10 minutes on some platforms, but anything that's just, it's made to scroll. Basically, that's kind of your rule of thumb, is if it's in a scrolling mentality, it's vertical, that's what we consider short form. Long form is anything that's in a horizontal format and is made to stay for, 9 to 20 minutes is typically what we call our long form content. I mean, it can also be 7 minutes, okay? Like it's not exactly those amounts, but anything that's kind of in a horizontal format that the purpose is to educate, to keep people there for longer, that is kind of what we would consider the long form. Short form, it's vertical. People are only going to scroll for so long, and it's just to try and capture that person for a few seconds. Let's see. And best practices for those shorts as well. We actually have a whole module on this in the course. This was recently updated. And so if you want to go check that out, we have quite a few tips for that. But ultimately, depending on what platform you're on, it's a little bit different for each platform. But generally speaking, we found a lot of success with it being, under 15 seconds for those shorts. And that tends to capture people pretty well. Another thing is to kind of have a recurring option where it's like you can't really tell where the video begins and ends. And so having something that maybe there's text in there that you can't read all of it, so you have to watch it a second time, that tends to really get some good traffic, some good conversion. But yeah, I mean, I could go on and on with shorts, but we actually have a whole module on that. So I would go check that out. Let's see. So those market things and seasonal things are good for shorts. Yes, absolutely. Semi-seasonal, you can do it both ways. You can do it short form, you can do it long form, but there's definitely a little bit more opportunity with the short form, just because, again, if it's trending, it's going to push more content or more traffic to your channel. And people are going to start looking at some of the more evergreen content as well. And it's trending, right? I mean, it will probably trend again the following year. So I think short form content, it tends to do a little bit better with the semi-seasonal. However, there is a way to incorporate that into your long form content that can also be evergreen. So I think it's just depends on how you look at it, and if you feel like you have enough content to fill a long form or not. And actually, that's actually a really good point. There is some criteria when you're thinking about, is this better for short form or is this better for long form? And I think what it really comes down to is how much content do I have? And does this really make sense to make a whole bunch of content for it? For instance, say that maybe you want to focus on one thing, one event that happens. Say that you've got some spectacular Christmas parade that happens. That's probably more of a short form thing, because if that's the one thing that you want to focus on, it's probably not enough to sit there for 12 minutes unless you want to just watch all of the different tractors go by with all of their lights on it for 12 minutes. And I think you're going to lose people. So that would probably be considered more of a short form. Now, maybe you want to focus on Christmas, we'll use the example I had before, Christmas in Chicago. Maybe you're focusing on, what do houses look like at this time of year? What are some of the community things that they can do around this time of year? What's some of the seasonal food that comes out? Now, if you've got 3 or 4 different items around what Christmas look like in this area, that's probably more of a long form video. And it comes down to more of a lifestyle thing rather than one single event. So that's kind of where I would stick to when it comes to short form versus long form, is, do you have enough content to actually fill people's time for, 7+ minutes, or is this better used in maybe something under a minute? All right, let me go back. I've got lots of questions, so got to find my spot here. Let's see. Yes, I'm all for going out and doing videos in the winter. Yes, absolutely. Especially for you when you're in Montana. You guys have snow for a lot of the year. So it wouldn't make sense to not make videos during those cold years. There's a lot. I mean, that's actually great. I was just talking to Hallie the other day, and ski resorts are a big deal up there. And she actually just did a vlog tour on a major ski resort up there that is really ritzy, lots of wealthy people go up there and spend a lot of money. So that's a huge topic. And I mean, that's a huge reason why people go to that area. And it could be an appeal for someone who's potentially moving to that area. If they are a skier, they're going to want to see the snow, right? So there's something to highlight in each area, even if you don't have a ski resort. Okay. Not all of us have a ski resort, but there is something to highlight even during kind of the yucky months of what you would consider the yucky months. Just think about, what can you highlight that would feel, magical or enticing to somebody during that time of year? Let's see. Okay, let's see here. Plan on having you do all my editing. I'm almost done with the program. I'm currently in module 4. Do I need to complete the whole program before I start making videos and have you edit and set up my channel? I would recommend that. Now, you are welcome to do what you want to do with that. If you're doing I always recommend doing the entire program, mostly because I want to make sure that you have a full understanding of what you're doing. I would hate for you to go out and do a video and then send it to our team. And then our team has to come back and say, hey, this was not done correctly. I would not want to do this until you fixed it. So I would probably go through the entire program first. I know it's exciting to kind of jump in and everything, but I find that if you really set yourself up for it'll set you up for success if you have a full set of knowledge behind you. It'll also help you be a little bit more picky when it comes to what you want in terms of your colors, what you want your channel to look like, because you'll have the knowledge behind it to see what the purpose is behind all of those style choices. So that's what I would definitely recommend, is going through the entire channel first, or the entire course first. Let's see. What editing do you do for short form, and does that include a thumbnail and end card? Yeah, we've been going back and forth. We were hoping to launch that in November, but given all of the updates that have happened with shorts, we've wanted to kind of step back and make sure that we really have a solid plan for getting this done in mass. So I apologize. We have had to put the pause button on that for a little bit. We'll have more information on that in January. We've just been wrapping up some decisions on how we want to approach it for people, just to maximize the use, because we definitely don't want to jump into it with the shorts editing and not give you something that's actually going to boost your channel. We've been doing some testing on our own channel, and we want to be able to incorporate those new updates and changes before we offer that service. Let's see. Warren, let's see what you've got here. Okay, how do you do map video and put your picture on the screen? I'm doing a full setup. Okay, yeah. So we do have a full video in the course on how to do a map video. I believe that it may be named how to do a screen share video. I think that I might have changed it just because we had questions on this, but I would definitely say there's a couple of different ways to do that. And I get this question actually quite a bit. The first thing that I would do is, you could do it with 2 different cameras, or you could do it with 1 camera, and we can split it on the editing side. So actually what Levi does is he has 2 different cameras that takes his image from 2 different angles, and we basically just splice them together. That's one way that you can do it. The other thing that you can do is you can use a program like Loom. And actually, I love Loom, and I know Levi loves Zoom, and I think that he has a flow with it. But for me, I like Loom just because you can change the size of your thumbnail and your image within the screen, and I really like that. So that's one thing that you could do too, is you could just increase the size of that like little circle on Loom, and you can put that anywhere on the screen. So that's another option. It just kind of depends on how much of the screen you want to be a part of. If you want to go really fancy, you can get a second camera. You can get like a second phone and just have a dedicated phone for video, and then you can use your own personal phone for part of it, or you can use your webcam to take the other portion of it with the screen share. You know, there's a couple of different ways to do it, but ultimately I think the easiest way to do that is to have 2 different cameras, one taking a picture of you, and then of course just using your screen share as the second half. So hopefully that made sense. I do get that question quite a bit. All right. And any word on the affiliate program launch? Still working on it. I am so sorry. It's another one of those things we pulled back, and we wanted to make sure that we were completely aligned on. So I will have more information on that one as well in January. Let's see. Yes, and Gwyneth, yeah, she's one of our team members. She's actually our client care specialist. So you've probably talked to her if you've ever tried to text in. But she says how to make map videos can be found in the course in module 4. And that's true. Yeah, we do have a whole module dedicated to that. And that's one of the videos that's in there. So if you want some extra clarification on that, go ahead and just pop back into the course. That was a recent update. So for people who have gone through the course maybe 6 months ago, you probably didn't see it, because I believe that we just updated that in like September or October. So you may want to just revisit that module. Cool. So I think I've answered all the questions there. Let me check the private chat here. Okay, awesome. So I will go through a couple more of the questions that have come through. And then of course, if nobody else has any other questions, then I'm also happy to jump off and let you guys get back to your day. But I just want to make sure that I answer all of your questions. Oh, this is a great one. So short tail versus long tail key phrases and keywords. This is one that I've talked about before, but I thought that I would revisit it because I've actually had quite a few people who have messaged me who have been concerned because they'll get 100% score on TubeBuddy on a title, but they're concerned about like maybe traffic volume and things like that. A lot of the times, now this is the tricky thing with TubeBuddy, and another reason why I really recommend going through the course multiple times. And let me just sidetrack for a second and just say, from a learning perspective, one thing that I found to be extremely helpful is going through a program multiple times. I find for me that, at least for me, that if I go through something one time, as far as like a video training or something like that, it just simply isn't enough. There's just so much information for your brain to absorb, and you learn new things each time that you go through it. So I technically like to go through things about 3 different times on important things. So especially for module 3 and 4, I would really go through that like 3 or 4 times before you really feel super confident about everything in there, because there's a lot in those 2 modules. And I think that it's easy to kind of miss some of those small details. But going through this course, as you're going through it, and you really want to understand what the purpose behind your titles and what does 100% score really mean on TubeBuddy. You can get 100% score with a really bad key phrase. And the reason is because there's multiple factors involved, right? You've got competition involved, you've got traffic involved, you've got your personal weight on your personal channel involved. There's a lot of different things that go into that. Now, the number one thing that I see that kind of skews the results for that is competition. So you can get 100% score on something. Say that you use a title that says, how to buy a house in Vermont for $300,000 with absolutely no experience and without, with all cash. That is probably going to get 100% score. Why? Because there's probably some usable keywords in there, and there's 0 competition for that, right? So you may get 100% score and you think, wow, this is an incredible title to use. I'm getting 100% on it. Well, if you scroll down to the bottom, you're also going to see traffic volume, and it's going to say insufficient data. It's going to have 0 traffic. So what you want to actually be searching for is more of a short tail keyword when you're doing your titles. Now, if you're doing short tail keywords, what this also allows you to do is to use multiple short tail keywords that are going to rank extremely well. So that's usually what we do on the editing side, is we'll go in and we'll rank for like 2 to 3 major keywords that we know are ranking well. And we incorporate those all through the title, and then all through the tags, and all through the description. So that's actually much more powerful than trying to find one title with 100% score. So that's what I would recommend doing, is start with your short tail keywords and work your way out. Now, there's sometimes that you can incorporate way more than just 2 or 3 keywords that are ranking super well. And those are the videos that really tend to take off. A good example is saying, we'll use, for some reason, I always revert back to Denver, Colorado. But Denver, Colorado, houses for sale. That actually is a really good keyword. Denver, Colorado is also a keyword in and of itself. Denver, Colorado houses is a keyword in and of itself. So right there, you have multiple keywords within one key phrase. So that's what I really would prefer that you would go in and look for, rather than trying to find this huge long title and saying, I got 100% for it. That means absolutely nothing if there's no traffic volume that goes along with that. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, of course, every once in a while you get really lucky and you do have a title that maybe it's a little bit longer and there's a huge amount of volume for that. That's a huge win. But most of the time, that's not going to happen. So I would definitely start short tail and work your way to long tail keywords and key phrases, and that's going to serve you much better in terms of actually getting your videos out there. Let's see. It looks like we might have had a couple more questions come in. Let's see, just completed the course. Instructor cautioned about taking videos of neighborhoods because owners don't acknowledge in advance. Thoughts? It really... We haven't run into that. The main thing is, obviously you don't want to trespass on people's property. And Levi actually talks about this, I believe, in a couple of the different modules. If you're trespassing on somebody's property, that can sometimes, bother people, but no one can stop you from walking down the street. And so I think it's just important, just kind of the way that you do it. And actually, Levi's had a couple people approach him, and usually people are extremely happy that they're highlighting the area because they're excited to be highlighted. And people end up coming back. I've had this on my own husband's channel. When Christopher goes out and he does stuff, he gets people all the time, and they end up becoming a subscriber because they want to see their neighborhood actually featured on the channel. They think that's really cool. So we've never run into that. Now, of course, if you start to run into that and you're having issues, now I will say this. I will say this. If you are in an HOA community, you're probably going to have to check in to be able to go and film in those areas. That is probably the one and only time you're going to run into any type of problem. But if you've checked in with somebody who's in charge, they usually have no problem. They usually say yes. So Levi's done that a couple of times. They may not let you into a $15 million community that's gated with the gold gates, right? They may not let you in there, but generally speaking, you're going to be able to get into those communities and you won't run into any issues. Yes. And again, definitely go through the modules more than once. There's a lot of nuggets. So you're going to want to go through there multiple times, take lots of notes, listen to it in your sleep, listen to the audio. You'll absorb a lot if you do it that way. Thanks, Vincent, for the support. Always here. He's on our Living in Dallas team, and he's one of our top agents. Awesome. Instructor stated because it was selling advertisement. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what you're meaning. Maybe it's because you're technically in commercial use in some way. Again, like I said, we've never run into that problem. This is something that a lot of real estate agents do. Typically, the only time you're going to run into that problem is if, if you're in an HOA community and it's kind of protected by extra security. So I would ask permission if you're going to an HOA community. I definitely don't want you to get kicked out of a neighborhood, but generally speaking, we do not have any problems with that. People can walk around the street and take video as long as you're not walking on somebody's personal property. A lot of times a good strategy for that is actually walking across the street from the house that you're showing or the houses that you're showing. Now, again, you need to check with your area because, every area is a little bit different. Every state has a little bit of different laws with that. So you may want to check with your local people. But at the same time, like in Canada, it's very, very, very strict on how you can do that. There's different laws around that. And so, of course, you do need to revert back to, the laws in your area. But 99% of the time, you're not going to run into a problem with it. So perfect. Okay. So let me go through a couple more of these questions. And again, as questions pop up, I'll just stop and I'll pop over into the comment section. And so just keep them coming. Another thing that I've had a lot of questions about is why do I not want to promote my videos on social? I've had some people who have done this and then they come to me and they're like, man, I just don't feel like my videos are getting pushed out. After I investigate and I dig, I find out they've been posting it on their personal Facebook page. And so those 250 views that they were getting or the 300 views that they were getting on their videos, it's all coming from their friends. So the YouTube algorithm starts to read what their friends' demographics are, what their friends are doing, what their friends are searching, and it's creating a profile for those people. Well, are you selling to your friends? I guess that's the question. If your friends are your target market, then maybe. But if your friends are not your target market, it can completely skew your analytics. So you never, ever, ever want to, especially at the beginning of a channel's, as you're starting to post videos and things like that, it can actually really hurt your channel's analytics. It will not give you accurate analytics and it will, it'll boost your views and not actually help you with getting calls. So you don't want to skew your views. You don't want to skew your audience. And you don't want to create a false demographic for your channel. So I would definitely stay away from any type of social promotion. I would not recommend doing that. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Yes. And hello, Arizona Real Estate. Yes, this is being recorded. This will be available just a few minutes after we're done. You'll just have to go to the live section of our YouTube channel. You'll be able to find it there. Yeah, and we kind of talked about this one. Best use of time between now and January 1st, because I know we're kind of getting to the end of the year. And at the end of the year, a lot of times, a lot of people back off, right? You're trying to do stuff with your family. It's kind of hard to get those videos in. Weather might be crazy and it's just not as motivating to get out and do videos. Well, if you feel like this is going to be a hard time of year for you to get a bunch of videos done, the next best thing would be to do that planning for 2023. How are you going to best take advantage of your time in 2023? What are you going to do to increase your channel views next year? Make some actual goals for yourself. And then of course, make a list of videos that you're going to do. So I would spend that time just really prepping your channel. Now I will say this. People who take some time, and I know that it's right before Christmas. Christmas is next week, or technically it's 2 Sundays from now. Okay, so whenever you decide that the week begins for you, it's basically next week. That's a lot of holiday stuff is going on for people. But the people who take advantage of this time of year and have a good batch of videos to start the year out strong with, those are the people who are going to get calls. And this is why. We've been hearing whispers of interest rates going down across the board. And when that happens, you all know what happens, right? The housing market is going to go crazy again, just like it did before. The interest rates have been high for a while, and the second they drop, you're going to be overloaded with people. And if you have videos that have been consistent, YouTube has already done the work to push out your channel. So you really need to keep that in mind. What do you want your year to look like next year? It also comes down to habits, right? If you're willing to kind of push through the hard months where you're like, oh, this is the last thing I want to do right now. I don't really want to go out and do videos. I just want to sit at home and eat my Christmas cookies, right? Well, it'd be easy for you to do that at any other time of the year, right? So if you do that now, is that going to become a habit for you next year? Is that going to taper off and all of a sudden you're no longer doing your YouTube channel? I've seen that with some people this year where things kind of got hard for them and they said, okay, I'm going to pause. I'll be back. And they never came back, right? So just think about that. Now, I'm not here to guilt anybody into doing it, right? Like we all want to take time just to do what we want to do during the holiday season. But I also want you to think about habits and mindset. And what does that mean? Pushing through. It's like going to the gym, right? Going to the gym's hard. Nobody likes getting up early in the morning, but if you do it and you're consistent with it, and even on the days when it's hard, you're sore from the day before, you don't feel like it, you went to bed late the night before, the people who push through that are the ones who see results. And that's the way that it is with the YouTube channel as well. So it comes down to mindset. And then again, and I kind of touched on this before, but holiday traffic expectations, just know that this year is weird. Or not this year, this time of year is weird. You're going to see this all through the holiday season. It's normal to see like dead times, like for 2 weeks at a time. Like people just get off of their phones, they get off of the computer because they're thinking, I've got to hustle, got to get stuff done before the end of the year. I can't be distracted. On the flip side, people are also doing a ton of stuff with their families, right? So maybe they're not spending as much time on the computer because they're doing all of their holiday traditions and things like that. That time is about to expire. People are about to get back to their normal routine. So you definitely are not going to see this forever. So if you're starting to see that your channel's analytics are a little bit down this month, or it was from last month too, do not sweat it. This is super normal. We saw it on our channel last year. It's a totally normal time of year to see kind of that fluctuation. It will level out once we get to probably mid-January, early February, and then you're going to start seeing that growth again. So just keep consistent. If you are not consistent, you're going to start seeing those same things. And I'm going to hear those same complaints of, why is my channel not performing? Because you went down to 1 video a week from 3, right? So stay consistent and it will pay off. Let's see. And then the last question that I've had multiple questions about is, when do I create playlists? When do I want to start doing that? Because playlist is something that we hammer on the course, right? We talk about making sure that you add that. It's part of the SEO optimization checklist. Playlists are great, but if you don't have enough content to fill them up, it can actually make your channel look really empty. So my rule of thumb is usually like 3+ videos for a particular playlist is good. If you have at least 3 videos, then it's probably enough to create a playlist for. Now with that, you have to also create a description for each one of those playlists. If you're in the video editing program, we do all of that for you, so you don't have to worry about that. But if you're creating your own playlists, make sure that as you create the playlist that you're actually creating an optimized description for it as well. That will help push it out a little bit more. But yeah, generally speaking, you want to have enough content for 3 videos at least in each playlist. And then I like to see between 3 and 5 playlists on the channel to have enough for 3 to 5 different playlists on the channel before you even create playlists. So keep that in mind. It's kind of the 3-3-5 method that I kind of like to think of it as. So just make sure you have enough content to fill it out so it doesn't make your channel look empty. Let's see. Yes, habits and mindset are so important. And, it's like I tend to stay away from mindset stuff because I'm a huge believer in it. But I also know that sometimes it's like a lot of people talk about like, you can do it. You believe, like, if you believe anything's possible, like that kind of stuff can get so old and so boring. But I do want to just emphasize that just having that consistency, and consistency is the name of the game on YouTube. It's the name of the game on any social platform. But mindset is really important. So if your mind's not right and you feel like you're in a slump right now, think of ways for you to kind of get out of that slump. What's one thing that you can do today to kind of pick yourself back up and start doing that? What's one thing that you can do outside of your comfort zone today that will get you closer to your goals in 2023? Moving next week. When is your next session in the new year? Have a wonderful Christmas. Yay. I know, it's exciting. Christmas is next year. Yes. So we will not be having a live next week. So I believe it'll be the week after that. And then we're back to our normal schedule after that. So, we'll do our normal training schedule. Let's see. Do you think live videos on market updates will boost traffic to your channel? Excellent question. And actually, we talked about this last week, and the answer to that is an absolute yes. That's a wonderful place to do lives. This is another thing. If you guys missed our training last week, this was a really major nugget from last week that I'll share again. Think anytime you're doing any type of video, think of intent. What is the intent of the user on the other side of that video? Lives tend to be in the moment, right? It's kind of like that semi-seasonal content where it's in the moment traffic. People who are thinking of something in the moment. When someone sees live, they think current. So a market update would be an excellent place to put a live video. And it counts as long form content. Now, again, I think that there's a way to make that a double whammy, right? Like create something that has a market update, but then again, relate it to how it can relate the next year. How has it related over the past 3 or 4 years? How will it relate in the future? So I would not just focus on that, but making that kind of the center of what your content is about would be an excellent live topic. And people will really respond to that because the lives, we're seeing a really big boost from those for people who are incorporating those onto their channel. And the best part is YouTube just opened that up for everybody. It's no longer exclusive to people who have 1,000 subscribers. So I would definitely take advantage of a live scenario with like your market updates and things like that. Or if you're highlighting an area like, market crash kind of stuff, that's a really good place to highlight those. Now you can do those in a long form video too. We've done both. And actually I would try doing kind of the same topic, but in a live scenario and then in a long form scenario and see which one performs better. Could be a really good testing topic. Well, perfect. Well, it looks like I've answered all of the questions today. We were just really efficient, guys. That's what I'm here for, right? So if no one else has any other questions, then we'll go ahead and call it a day for today. And I know a lot of people here, again, it's the holiday season, right? So I'm sure a lot of people are out there getting ready for the holidays. But just to kind of wrap up in my final thoughts on things, just remember that as we head into this new year, you have some choices. You have some choices to either increase what you're doing or to stay the same, or to just completely let it go, right? And I think that it all comes down to a decision to be consistent. So I'd really recommend kind of taking some time and doing some research for yourself, kind of doing some planning for yourself, some soul searching, if you will, and just decide what are some things that we can do this year to really make our year next year completely different. One book that I will recommend to people is this book. It's called Words That Sell. If you want to take a look at this book, this has a lot to do with like email marketing, but if you're actually working on your email campaigns for next year as well, which we are going to talk a lot about email campaigns next year, by the way. This is a fantastic book for anything, but you can find some really good catchy words in here. If you're looking for more clickbaity titles, this is the book to go to. I use this all the time. I've had this for like 5 years. And I go in here and I look for stuff all the time for just catchy words. If I'm ever struggling with a title, that's where I like to go. So I would definitely recommend doing that. And then of course, just always be learning. Go back and look at our course multiple times. We're always doing updates for that. And just try to pull extra nuggets out of there. Find new understanding and try to absorb as much as you can so that next year is going to be as successful as possible for you. Awesome. Oh, let's see. We've got a couple more last minute questions. Let's see. Pull this up here. Would you recommend naming your channel after an area or a city? Well, that depends. It depends on your area. And it depends on what you see in TubeBuddy. You have to do a little bit of research. Usually I tell people to search your 3 to 5 renditions of your area. I would do that on the larger area and maybe your particular city or town that you're trying to focus most of your time in. I would do 3 to 5 renditions of each and see what the traffic looks like. And then I would name your channel based on the highest traffic volume and the lowest competition. That's what I would do on that. Let's see. But I would say this too. Every area is different. Dallas Texas is all encompassing of all these tiny suburbs. When you think of Dallas, Texas, you think of all these other areas as a part of Dallas, Texas, right? Allen, Texas, it's in the Dallas, Texas area. I'm trying to think of places off the top of my head. Plano, Texas, and Frisco, they're kind of their own areas. But, a lot of those smaller areas, it's still kind of considered the greater Dallas, Texas area, right? So that's kind of unique to there. Now, if you're in a smaller area, say that you're in Salt Lake City, Utah and Provo, Utah are completely different areas, and they're only about 45 minutes away from each other. And so you have to kind of think about just what do people think of when they're actually searching for your area, and then do some searches on 3 to 5 different renditions of those, and then just choose the best traffic for that. And I'm sorry, you're going to hear my cat. She's famous in our office. She tends to make an appearance at the worst times. And so you're hearing her, and she wants to come in, and she's not coming in. So awesome. I have KB Core. Should I get a smart number? Yeah, there's a couple of different ways to do that. I'm trying to remember what the service is off the top of my head. I've lost it. But yeah, you can do a couple of different ways. Some people use a Google Voice number. A Google Voice number is not sellable, so that's the only downfall of using that. But yeah, if you actually purchase a number and use it as a forwarding number, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Then yes, I would get your own number. If you want it to be a sellable asset, I would definitely get your own phone number. How long does it typically take to get through the program? Of course, I believe the last time we clocked it was somewhere between 9 and 12 hours of actual content. Really depends on how long it takes you to how often are you stopping and taking notes and that type of thing. It just kind of depends on your own pace. But just as far as like the actual length of the videos, we're somewhere between 9 and 12 hours. Did you get my email yesterday? Possibly. I think I know who this is. And if so, yes. So you should get a response today. I think I got it towards the end of the day yesterday. So, all right. Well, awesome. Well, I think that's all of the questions. If you guys have questions in between now and our next call, like I said, we will not be having a live call next week because of Christmas. As far as I know, I need to check with Levi and double check, but I don't think we're doing one next week. But if you have questions in between now and then, I'm always available at support@passiveprospecting.com, and I can answer any questions that you have. And then, yeah, Michelle was asking what's the email. It's support@passiveprospecting.com. All righty. Thanks so much, guys, and Merry Christmas if I don't see you before then. Bye.